Um, my point is not that clinical experience is bogus. My point is that clinical experience is necessary, and it mediates between the scientific fact and the patients. That we say, patient comes in, they're warm. Do they have a fever? Do they have warm, velvety skin? It obviously matters, and you need training and experience in order to do that. But once oh, this person has a fever, then you get on your little fever guideline. You're like, okay, well, check this, check this, check this, check this, check this. And that's the thing. Someone comes in with a headache, like, whatever. Someone comes in with a headache and vision problems. Oh, hey, there we go. See, I mean, the point is that these guidelines make it easier for doctors to be doctors and easier for them to be good. The other point from this paper is that non-randomized controlled trial research is deprecated. It's that kind of knowledge is not considered good. And the paper itself says that 98% of publications are not randomized controlled trials. People make their living, well, not people, but academic scientists make their living based on publications. So if you can get a bunch of publications doing non-randomized controlled trials, you can hold down a job doing non-randomized controlled trials. How is that, these people are being ostracized? No, I don't think so. So basically, and then I have a couple of quotes that I dug up, which I have to now find. So the first one is, these are verbatim from the paper. Those who are wedded to the idea of evidence in health sciences maintain that what is essentially a Newtonian mechanistic worldview. They tend to believe that reality is objective, which is to say that it exists out there, absolutely independent of the human observer and of the observer's intentions and observations. That's the first quote. The second quote, which is about 2 paragraphs later. Of course, we do not wish to deny that the material and objective existence of the world, and I'm going to insert out there, but would suggest rather that our relation to the world and to others is always mediated. That's italicized. Italics here this way. Mediated, never direct or wholly transparent. So, the first quote fundamentally misrepresents how science works. First of all, it mocks the idea that there's a real world out there, and then 2 paragraphs later they say, oh wait, there is a real world out there. This is some of the stuff that I identified in my first clip where I talked about, fascism and redefining words and all that stuff. That's the same thing, or in the same vein. But I would also agree that it presents a terrible depiction of science. Science is all about, intentions and observations. We did a trial to study this. This is what we're looking for. And when you do statistics, you have to say beforehand what you're going to be looking for, because then if you find something else, it's less likely to be meaningful. If you find not the opposite is still meaningful, but if you find something incidentally, it's like, well, maybe that's not as important because it's not anyway. And then also, all about observations. That's why we need the data. That's why we have to study this and study how, how does the data and how much do we trust the author and all these things, like how does that fit together in order to give us some sort of model idea, like a little, some blobs interacting together to think about the real world. And that's how science actually works, and it's not this straw man post-positivist thing. Actually, I'd be willing to bet that most people have never heard of post-positivism. It's the theory that science is supposed to be following, although, finding a scientist that understands post-positivism, it basically says that only things that everything, the only things that exist are the things that can be directly observed, and that I don't know, and I don't feel like looking it up. Anyway, this clip is running way too long, so I'm going to sign off. You might ask, why did I put myself through the trouble of reading this paper? I'll tell you, it's important to me that, you know, you see something that is troubling and is represents sort of a fundamental misunderstanding of how science works and how medicine works, and people are going to read this and people are going to cite this, and it's just bad in general. I should actually do a quick plug here. The way that I learned about this is there's a website that I read a lot called Bad Science. It's just badscience.net. The author is a guy named Ben Goldacre. He has a column in, I believe, the Sunday Times or the Guardian on Sundays or something. And it's very good and generally pretty funny. I suggest you look into it. That's about it for me, so thanks and good night.